Hello Cloud Pedagogians, welcome to the lab course. In today's lab, we are going to build a 3-tier network VPC from scratch in AWS. The 3-tier architecture is the most popular implementation of a multi-tier architecture. It consists of a single presentation tier, logic tier, and data tier. In this lab, we are going to create a 3-tier VPC network from scratch. We will start by building the VPC, building and attaching an internet gateway, and we are going to build 6 different subnets inside of our 3 different tiers. Next, we are going to split these pairs of subnets across 2 different availability zones, because we always want to do for high available and fault tolerance architecture in AWS. Then we are going to create 2 different route tables, a route table to internet for our public subnets or subnets we want to have access to the open internet. Next, a route to the NAT gateway so that anything placed in our private subnets will have a route to update our software from the open internet. Finally, we will add some security to our subnets with 3 network access control lists, which are NACL. And then we will assign to our pairs of subnets layers with this NACL. So, why late? Let's start with our task. In task 1, we will build and configure a VPC and subnets. In task 2, we are going to configure the internet gateway. Task 3, we are going to build and configure a NAT gateway. In task 4, we are going to create and configure the route tables. In task 5, we are going to secure all 3 tiers of our application. Let's start with the task 1. Build and configure a VPC and subnets. With Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, means Amazon VPC, you can launch AWS resources in a logically isolated virtual network that you have defined. This virtual network closely resembles a traditional network that you would operate in your own data center. So basically, it has the same benefits of using the scalable infrastructure of AWS. A subnet is a range of IP addresses in your VPC. You can create AWS resources such as EC2 instances in a specific subnets. So our first step will be to create a new VPC to host our 3-tier architecture. To create VPC, I am going to go all services, click VPC under networking and content delivery. In the left side menu bar, click your VPCs and then I am going to create VPC. Enter a name for your VPC. In the IPv4 CIDR block range, enter a range for your address bar. Leave the IPv6 CIDR block and tenancy fields as their defaults and then click on Create VPC. The VPC will be created in a minute or so. Click View VPC after it completes. Hence, our VPC is created successfully. Next thing we need to do is create subnets. We have 6 subnets to create, 2 each for web, application and database layers. Let's start with the first web layer. In the left side menu, click Subnets. Click Create Subnets. Select the VPC ID from the drop-down. Hence, this is the web tier. I am going to enter Web 1 Public. In Availability Zone, select US East 1A. In the CIDR block range, enter 10.99.1.0/24 and then create subnet. Good, we have created one subnet. Likewise, we are going to create another subnet in different availability zone for the web layer. So, click on Create Subnet, select the VPC ID, enter some name like Web 2 Public. In the availability zone, now you have to select US East 1B and enter the different CIDR block range like 10.99.2.0/24 and then create subnet. We have created web layers successfully. Now is the time to create subnets for the rest of other application and the database layers. Only thing you have to have a different values are availability zone and the IPv4 CIDR block range. Let's make the first application layer. Clicking on Create Subnets, selecting the VPC ID, entering a name for it like application 1 private. In the availability zone, I'm going to select US East 1A. In the IP CIDR block range 10.99.11.0/24 and then create subnets. In the second application layer, again I'm going to click on Create Subnet, select the VPC ID and then enter a name application 2 private. In the availability zone, I'm going to select US East 1B. In the CIDR block range 10.99.12.0/24 and then click Create Subnet. Finally, for the first database layer, again I'm going to click Create Subnet, selecting my VPC. In the name database 1 private. In the availability zone US East 1A. In the CIDR block range, I'm going to enter 10.99.21.0/24 and then click Create Subnet. Finally, in the second database layer, again I'm going to click Create Subnet, selecting the VPC and entering database 2 private. In the availability zone, US East 1B. In the IP CIDR range block 10.99.22.0/24, click Create Subnet. So now we have created all 6 subnets. We should have 3 subnets each in US East 1A availability zone and the US 1B availability zone. Notice a pattern in the CIDR block ranges as well. Using third octet, we categorize them by groups of 10. So for quick reference, we know that if the third octet is 1 or 2, it's a part of the web layer. If it is 11 or 12, it's a part of the application layer. If it is 21 or 22, it's the part of the database layer. But remember, whether we label these subnets public or private doesn't actually make them public or private. It's just a naming construct. We will actually make them public or private in a bit when we route them to a public or private route tables. Good job, you have completed the task 1. In task 2, we are going to configure the internet gateway. An internet gateway is a horizontally scaled, redundant and highly available VPC component that allows communication between your VPC and the internet. It supports IPv4 or IPv6 traffic. It does not cause availability risks or bandwidth constraints on your network traffic. Now we need to create the internet gateway for our VPC. In the left side menu, click Internet Gateways. Enter a name for the internet gateway, CP-IGW. Click Create Internet Gateway. Once it's created, you will see its state says detached. Even though it's been created, it's not a part of the VPC yet. Let's fix that. Click on Actions at the top of the screen. From the drop-down menu, click Attach to VPC. For available VPCs, select the VPC which I have created, 3-tier VPC. Now click on Attach Internet Gateway. If you observe, the state should now say Attached. Good work. You have completed the task 2 as well by configuring the internet gateway. In task 3, we are going to build and configure a NAT gateway. A NAT gateway is a network address translation service. You can use a NAT gateway so that the instances in a private subnet can connect to the services outside your VPC, but external services cannot initiate a connection with those instances. In the left side menu bar, click NAT gateways. If there is one already in your account, you can ignore it, but we are still going to create a new one. Click Create NAT Gateway. Enter a name for it. In the subnet, select Web to Public. In the connectivity type, select Public. Click on Allocate Elastic IP. Now click on Create NAT Gateway. Good job, you have successfully completed the task 3 as well. In task 4, we are going to create and configure route tables. A route table contains a set of rules called routes that determines where network traffic from your subnet or gateway is directed. First, we are going to create our public route table. In the left side menu, click Route Tables. Click Create Route Table. Enter a name and select the 3-tier VPC. Click Create Route Table. Next, we are going to create our private route table. Click Create Route Table in the Route Table dashboard. Enter CP Private Route and select the 3-tier VPC. Click Create Route Table. On their own, route table doesn't do anything. We have to give them the routes to something. For the public route table, we need to provide a route to the internet gateway. For the private route table, we need to provide a route to the NAT gateway. Let's provide a route from the public route table to the internet gateway. Select CP Public Route. On the Routes tab, click Edit Routes. Click on Add Route. For the destination, select 0.0.0.0/0. For target, select Internet Gateway and then save changes. We have now created a route from our public route table through the Internet Gateway into the open Internet. Next, we are going to provide a route from the private route table to the NAT gateway. So select CP Private Route. Again, in the Route tab, click Edit Routes and then click on Add Route. For the destination, keep all zeros. Select Target. Select NAT Gateway in this and select your NAT Gateway. And then click Save Changes. Next thing we have to do is associating our subnets with route tables. First, let's associate our public subnets with the public route table. Click on CP Public Route. In the Subnet Association tab, click Edit Subnet Association. Select the two web public subnets and then click on Save Associations. Next, associate our private subnets with the private route table. Click on CP Private Route. Again, click on Subnet Association tab. Click Edit Subnet Associations. Now we have to select 4 subnets which are 2 application and 2 database layers here. Click on Save Associations. Now anything placed inside the public route table has a route to the internet gateway, and anything placed inside the private route table has a route to the NAT gateway. If we have databases or EC2 instances located inside these private subnets, they can get updates from the open internet by going through the NAT gateway, which provides an extra layer of security. Essentially, it's a one-way street. The resources in the private subnets can access the open internet, but the open internet cannot access the resources in the private subnets unless we explicitly allow it. Good job, you have finished the task 4. In task 5, we are going to secure all 3 tiers. We are almost done with this. Before we wrap up things up, let's add a layer of security to our VPC by creating an NACL. It's a sort of firewall for controlling traffic in and out of one or more subnets for each of our layers. Basically, NACL or Network Access Control List allows or denies specific inbound or outbound traffic at the subnet level. You can use the default network ACL for your VPC, or you can create a custom network ACL for your VPC with defining rules that are similar to the rules for your security groups in order to add an additional layer of security to your VPC. So let's create the web NACL. In the left side menu bar, click Network ACLs. We should see a default NACL similar to the route tables. The default NACL was created when we created our VPC. Anyhow, but we are going to create 3 new ones. Click Create Network ACL, enter a name, select our VPC and then create Network ACL. Next, we are going to create Application NACL. Again, click on Create Network ACL, enter a name and then select the VPC. Finally, create Network ACL. At last, we are going to create Database NACL. Click on Create Network ACL, enter a name and select VPC. Again, click Create Network ACL. We have created 3 NACLs for our 3-tier application. Next, we need to associate subnets with our NACL. Select CP Web NACL. Click on Subnet Association tab. Again, click Edit Subnet Associations. Here we select 2 web tier subnets layer and then click Save Changes. Now the traffic in and out of these subnets will be subject to the inbound and outbound rules we set up on this particular NACL. We are not going to set up any rules as a part of this lab right now. We are just building the infrastructure and a shell we could put resources in. So let's finish things up with NACLs for the remaining layers. Click on CP Application NACL. Click on Subnet Association tab. Click Edit Subnet Associations. Select the Application 1 private and Application 2 private subnets and click Save Changes. Next, click on CP Database NACL. In the Subnet Association tab, click Edit Subnet Associations. Select the Database 1 private, Database 2 private subnets and then click Save Changes. Congratulations, you have finished the lab by designing the 3-tier architecture for your VPC network. I really appreciate your time and interest in this lab. See you again in my next video. Until then, take care.